Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we're going to take a look at another Mojo Fun figure, as I've had a good little box full of Mojo Fun figures that I've been trying to get through and review for you guys over quite a while now, and somehow I keep missing them and putting up other reviews instead, so I 100% apologize for that, and I'm going to try to get back on track with getting some of these Mojo Fun figures reviewed for you guys, as there does seem to be a little bit of interest in them. This one is their Triceratops, and I actually really quite like it. I think this is probably one of their better figures as far as the older ones that they had out go. I think it's quite the appealing looking Triceratops. And overall, on top of having a pretty nice looking sculpt, has a very nice looking and very natural looking paint scheme to top it all off. So let's go ahead and get a closer look at it. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can definitely see some very nice fine detailing that is going on. It overall has some pretty nice detail. It's not what you would probably see on a Mojo Fun Triceratops currently, but it still was pretty nice for its time. It kind of has that very Mojo Fun trademark type of a look to it. As far as this little area here goes, as far as the sculpt work goes, I feel like that's a very signature Mojo Fun type of a look. As far as older figures go, I will say that. Not so much their newer ones. I think they've improved so much since this figure compared to what they did back then to what they do now. I think their figures are way nicer now. Not to say that these are bad, but they've definitely gotten a heck of a lot better. I love the beak up here. It's a blackish coloration. You can see the tongue is painted inside, but it's so small it's hard to get in there, which is actually pretty impressive that they were able to paint the tongue in such a small looking mouth, and it looks to be painted quite nicely actually. Doesn't appear to have any sloppiness. You can see some nice detailing here of the beak, and they've dry brushed a light gray over top of it to help elaborate that detail, and that looks really beautiful. The nostrils are nicely sculpted out up here, beautiful detail around them as well. If we move up into the spike here on the edge of the nostril area, it looks very nice sculpt work as well put in. You can see all sorts of cracks and crevices all throughout that horn. We move up into the top of the head. You can again take note of that light gray dry brushing that they've done to really help some of the detail pop, and I think that looks very nice. As we come down into the side of the head, you can see the eye is painted with an orange coloration, and it's not really sloppy. It's a little tiny bit sloppy, but just barely. I'm not a big fan of the fact that the eyes are orange. I think a better, more natural color could have been picked, but it still doesn't look that bad. I think this little area here is maybe a little off compared to where it should be, but it still looks pretty nice. I like the actual frill as we move up around, and you can see that there's kind of this nice dark brown or blackish rim that runs the course of the entire frill, helping to really give it a fairly striking but dark and natural look. And then if you look here in the middle, you can see that this area is kind of got like a rim of a burnt umber brown, and then two areas where there's like a white spot with a black spot inside to help give it a little bit of flashiness to an otherwise dark color scheme. The horns up here on this part of the head are very nicely done as well, as far as the overall appearance of the sculpt with the very fine detailing. And I think the colors they chose for the horns look very nice as well with that white. But then as you get closer to the actual skull, it kind of turns into a burnt umber, darker coloration, and I think that overall really looks quite nice. As we move back into the body of the dinosaur, you can again take note of that very similar Mojo Fun style sculpting that is put into this, but I think it looks pretty nice. You can get a sense of the musculature here of the leg, some skin folding going on here, and some creases as the leg is bent forward. You can see the nails and the feet are sculpted pretty nicely and painted fairly nicely. The nails aren't painted exactly as they should be, but they look okay. We come up here onto the top of the Triceratops. You can again take note of some of that light gray that's been dry brushed along to help bring out the detail. There are also some very large osteoderms up here on the top. We move down into the stomach. You can kind of take note of the rib cage there as I turn it just barely, kind of just hinting at it, which is a very nice touch. There are some more skin folds and wrinkling of the skin here as the leg is pushing up into the stomach a little bit. Some striping happening right in this area, and some very nice musculature here in the thigh and calf areas. The paint that is applied really looks nice. It's very naturally applied and looks quite good. Very realistic looking paint. You can again take note of the feet here on the back. Fairly nicely painted nails. And then as we get to the tail here in the back, you can see all sorts of creases and very large scales that have been sculpted out as the tail runs out to a point. The underside is a much lighter coloration, whereas the higher you get, it kind of tends to turn to a brown, and then actually gets some striping up on the very top with a black coloration that runs the entire body. This side is pretty much the same as the opposing side that we had already looked at, as the dinosaur is in a fairly neutral position. The only difference really on this side would be this leg is pushed back a little bit, and you can kind of see the skin reacting here in that area, but not too much. You can get a better look at the actual foot on this side, and again see that the nails aren't really painted too well, but they look okay, and the scaling looks fairly nice all over. It's not super highly detailed. It's not as nicely detailed as you would find on a more up-to-date Mojo Fun Triceratops when they do release their new one, but overall I still really think it's pretty nice, and definitely a fairly decent looking Triceratops for the time when they had released it. It's not half bad, but their new one that they're going to be coming out with, I think, looks much nicer than this, which this one itself isn't that bad. For a length on this Mojo Fun Triceratops, you are looking at about 7 3/4 inches, or about 19.5 centimeters. And for a height, the highest point would probably be the horn here. So you're looking at about 3 inches on the dot pretty much, or about 7.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is our Papo Rex, and this is showing you that the Mojo Fun Triceratops is fairly small. It's not the biggest Triceratops figure, that's for sure, but it's still a pretty decent size. If you actually get one in hand and take a look at it, it's not a bad size figure. It's actually a pretty good sized Triceratops, honestly, but our Papo Rex here is a good bit larger. He's a much larger figure in general, so that should give you an idea that this Triceratops is probably, I would say it's probably in the mid-sized area, like a medium figure, I guess you could say. So this Mojo Fun Triceratops is pretty nice. It's not half bad. It's not as super highly detailed as a lot of other companies have their figures. And again, I think the newer Mojo Fun Triceratops that will be coming out this year sometime is probably going to be a lot nicer than this one. But this one still is not a bad figure at all. It is quite the appealing looking figure, and overall has some fairly decent sculpt. It's got some nice looking sculpt as far as the very small details, including like the wrinkling of the skin and everything behind the tail and all that. It really looks pretty decent as far as that goes. The horns even have some very nice sculpt as far as the cracks and crevices that go throughout, and the beak and everything. I think the paint scheme is a very natural color as far as the brown goes, and they've done a great job of applying it. I think for the most part, the paint all looks very natural. Doesn't look like paint, it looks like body color, which is definitely a huge plus. The only area I could say that maybe looks a little more like paint than body color would be the frill up there where you have those little spots, the white and black spots. They don't look bad, they just kind of look a little out of place, but at the same time they still look pretty nice. Kind of a tough call. Either way, I still like this Triceratops. It's not the best Triceratops in the world, but it's certainly not the worst, and it's not half bad at all. It's a pretty outdated Triceratops, but at the same time, still pretty appealing. I love a good vintage looking figure, and that's pretty much what we have right here with this Mojo Fun Triceratops. So if you do want to buy it, check the description. I will link you to anywhere I can find that is available to purchase it. I'm not quite sure if it's in stock on everythingdinosaur.com, but I will check for you guys, and if not, I will link you to anywhere I can find, probably on Amazon that would have it for sale, so you can purchase one for yourself. So go ahead, check the description, follow that link to wherever I can find for you to buy this Triceratops if you would like, and please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.